Hello, everyone, and welcome back to UFC Fight Night. Dolidze versus Hernandez, another Apex card, but it should be pretty good. But there is a lot of heavy favorites here. I am going to pick a couple underdogs in this card, but I am going to probably lay mostly chalk here, as did last week. Kind of a return to schedule for how these UFC fights have been going after those pretty underdog heavy couple weeks away from the Apex. But yeah, hopefully we can strike it good this week, get in the top of predictors, and I'm pretty confident we can do so this week. Let's get right into it. All right, starting off at light heavyweight, noteworthy light heavyweight and not middleweight. These two are natural middleweights. We have Cody Brunage taking on Eric McConico. Cody Brunage sitting at minus 170, shortest favorite on the card. Comeback on McConico is at plus 150. And listen, I just think Brundage this is a good stylistic matchup for him, in my opinion. I think McConico is just a guy that eventually does want to get to the grappling, and I think he's gonna have a hard time doing that against Brundage, who has shown he has good takedown defense. He has good wrestling, right? He has had success with the wrestling in the UFC. Despite all those clips of him having really low fight IQ, he can use his wrestling very well. And for a guy like McConaughey, who does have trouble getting fights to the ground, that's going to be an issue for him. And on the feet, he is kind of compromised because his striking isn't very good and his chin just isn't really there, right? He's already 35. He kind of isn't really that experienced in the octagon, and against a guy like Brunn, it's just going to spell trouble, right? I think he might get his cock cleaned right here if he ends up staying on the feet too long. And again, you can't really trust Brunnage because I mean this guy is the pinnacle of inconsistency, right? You look at this guy's fight results, and he's had a draw, a win, a no contest, and a loss in his last four. I mean that's ridiculous, right? It's four separate colors on Tabology, but I do think that he is safe in this fight, right? This is a good matchup for him. Not sure McConaughey is UFC level, and I think he can expose that a little bit. So I got Brunch by knockout, but obviously can't really trust the guy too much. All right, moving on to the flyweight division, we got Gabriela Fernandez taking on Julia Stoliarenko. Fernandez, one of the bigger favorites on the card, and a card full of big favorites, sitting at minus 400. Come back on Stoliarenko is plus 300. I think these odds make sense for who Stoliarenko is, right? She's a one-dimensional grappler. Basically just fights off her back pretty much, right? She has that arm bar and that triangle, and she can take the back pretty well. That is about all she does, right? Wrestling sucks, right? But horrible takedowns and really bad takedown defense, kind of just because she wants to sit on her back. Like I said, the striking is it's abysmal, and her cardio sucks too, right? We've seen her in these fights. If she cannot get that early submission, she'll gas out, and she's susceptible to getting finished later in these fights, and that's trouble against someone like Fernandez, who has power for this weight class, right? She's coming off of two really good wins against Carly Judas, fight of the night against Carly Judas, who we know is very good, and then against Wang Tong, who's now ranked, in two fights after that. So I think she's proven how good she is and that she belongs in the UFC, and I think she's going to get another chance to shine in this fight as long as she has worked on her takedown defense and can defend those takedowns. This should be a pretty easy fight for her. I think she can get this done pretty easily by finish against a girl like Stoliarenko. The record tells it herself: 11-8-1, and if she can't get that early submission, she's probably going to get finished in this fight. So give me Fernandez by knockout here. All right, moving on to the welterweight division, we got Urosh Medic taking on Gilbert Urbina. Medic sitting at a big favorite minus 450. Come back on Urbina is at plus 350. And I think the odds are the way they are mainly because of the technical difference here, especially in the striking, right? Because Medic is a very good striker, right? And we've seen him have a lot of success in the striking, right? And even the takedown defense, the stat is really, really low. It's like at 40%, but that's a bit skewed, right? Because he was taken down over and over again by Muktabek Oralbai and was able to get back to his feet, just kept getting taken down. And that obviously does skew the takedown defense a little bit. But the problem is the chin, obviously, because the dude does get hit a lot. And he does get hurt bad a lot. He got hurt by Matt Semmelsberger and he got knocked out cold by Soriano in his last fight. Both of which who he had the technical advantage over and was still getting hit and still getting hurt in those fights. And he will have an advantage against Urbina, but Urbina does have power. So it definitely is a possibility that Urbina is able to find the shot. He also can wrestle too. As you can see, he is a mixed martial artist. So he definitely could be able to mix in, his wrestling against Medic, and maybe he could find success there as well. But I do think Medic is going to be able to find the shot on Urbine, who was just knocked out by Charlie Radke, which is, it's not great. So I'm going to pick Medic. Not as confident as minus 450, but I do think he finishes Urbina in the first or second round by knockout. All right, next up in the bantamweight division, we got Jocelyn Edwards taking on Priscilla Cachoeira. Edwards sitting at minus 370 right now. Comeback on Cachoeira, who has never been a favorite in the UFC. She finds herself as an underdog once again at plus 305. And listen, Cachoeira, stuck around the UFC for a while, underdog in every fight. But that's because she does have the one punch knockout power, right? Her strategy is the same every fight. Just bomb away on the feet and try to find that punch, right? There's no real technical prowess anywhere, really. I mean, her takedown defense isn't very good. The takedowns are non-existent. There's grappling holes all over, but there's a reason she's been able to stick around. It's because she has knockout power, and you know, she's able to stick around because she's finishing these lower level girls in the weight class that just can't handle the pressure and the pace that she can bring. But against Edwards, she's going to be severely outmatched everywhere, right? I trust Edwards is going to use her reach that she usually does use. And then even if she wants to shoot takedowns in this fight, she has a couple submissions in the UFC. I think she can have success against Cachoeira, who just has a huge hole in her takedown defense and her grappling defense. So if Edwards wants to make this a little bit easier, she definitely could try to take the fight to the ground. But even if she doesn't, I think she'll still be okay, right? She has power on the feet. She has the range and the reach. She could honestly find a finish in this fight. I wouldn't be surprised she was able to finish Cachoeira inside the distance. She is coming off that quick knockout win a couple months ago, and I was gonna pick her against Mayra Bueno Silva. I'm definitely picking her in this fight. She's got way too many skills to lose this one. I got her by decision here. All right, next up, biggest favorite on the card, Elijah Smith taking on Toshiomi Kazama. Smith, as mentioned, biggest favorite on the card, minus 750. Comeback on Kazama is plus 550. I think this just speaks to how versatile Smith can be and how Kazama, while he did win his last fight, he's been in trouble pretty much all of his UFC fights. He has basically had minimal success in the UFC, and he just can't really take a punch, right? And that is kind of a trending issue for a lot of these big underdogs, is that their chins and their durability isn't great, right? And we've seen that in Kazama's fights. He's getting dropped in all three UFC fights, right? Got knocked out in two of them, got knocked out bad in one of them. And there's only wins over a guy that just definitely isn't UFC caliber. And Smith is UFC caliber, right? This guy, I'm really high on him. He's got a big future. He's only 22 years old, but it's clear the talent is all there, right? This guy is a great wrestler. Not really super dangerous on the ground, but he does definitely have that awareness. We saw that in his last fight where he's putting a bunch of really tight chokes by Vince Morales. He's able to stay calm and composed and get out of there. So if he does find himself in some weird scramble, Kazama does have that good guard, but I think he should be fine on the ground and on the feet. I mean, this should be a huge gap, especially in power, speed, and durability. So, I mean, this should really be a pretty easy night at the office for Smith. It's definitely going to be a lot easier than his last fight. I got Smith by first round knockout. That seems like the easy play to me in this scenario. And yeah, I'm very confident that it'll get it done. There's a reason he's the biggest favorite in the card. I think I'm probably the most confident in him that he'll get it done. All right, next up, another big favorite at light heavyweight. We got Julius Walker taking on Rafael Sequeira. Walker sitting at minus 725. Come back on Sequeira's plus 525. And I think mainly the reason for this is, what does Sequeira do good, right? What does he do? And I feel a little bit disrespectful when I say this, but I don't think he does anything good, right? This guy listed as a striker, but the striking output just is not there, right? This guy's defense is atrocious, right? He's, prone to getting backed up against the fence. And against the fence, this guy's a deer in headlights, right? This guy is hands down, moving his head barely. And, this guy gets hit a lot. The same exact punch knocked him out in both of his last fights. The right hook while he was on the fence. His hands were all the way down to his hips, and he was getting blasted over and over again by that right hand. And he just can't take a punch, right? That right hand landed in both fights and just shut him off. And against Walker, the same thing's going to happen probably. He's going to get pressured against the fence, and he's going to get shut off against the fence, because Walker is a guy that is really good everywhere, right? He's another one of these prospects I'm really high on. He's also a personal friend of mine, so I guess I am kind of biased. But you know, when he's in the octagon, he showed in his last fight he can compete with the best in this division, right? Went in there against Menafield, top 15 guy on like a week's notice, and had a really good performance against Menifield. Now, did he win the fight? No, but he was a split decision. He's a big underdog in that fight, and he still found a way to make that competitive against Sakara, who's a huge step down. I think it's just going to be a showcase fight for him. I said in Sakara's last fight, this guy shouldn't be in the UFC anymore, but they're going to use him to set up one of these prospects. And they did that with Julius Walker, right? They're setting him up. They know what they're doing here. I got Walker by knockout in the first round, and he's going to show everyone that he belongs in the UFC. All right, next up at middleweight, we got Eric Anders taking on Christian Leroy Duncan. Christian Duncan sitting at minus 460, come back on Anders at plus 360. And listen, I understand the line, right? Because, excuse me, Anders is a guy that just isn't really that durable anymore, right? We've seen it in his last three fights. Got knocked down in all three of them, right? One of them was against Jamie Pickett, that's not good. And then one of them was against 70-year-old Chris Weidman. So, and it's not like he's facing high level competition and getting hurt by them. He's facing guys that are on the bottom of the food chain and in middleweight at this point in their respective careers, and then he's getting hurt badly by them. I honestly thought that he was going to get stopped against Jamie Pickett, and he's obviously able to tough that out against Jamie Pickett, but it's clear that the dude is way past it, and that's why CLD is the favor that he is. But I will say, dude, like maybe because I'm biased against CLD, I'm a CLD hater, and if you follow my Twitter page, you would understand that I don't like this guy, mainly because this guy's fight IQ, right? This guy probably has the brain of a walnut, because every time I see him fight, this guy's doing something stupid, right? He had Pulev hurt like 5 separate occasions in his last fight. Every time he'd have him back against the fence, and Pulev would just literally just be covering up like this. Please stop the fight. Please stop the fight. He would go and clinch with him. Every time he'd go and clinch with him. He'd have this dude on the fence, landing body shots, landing headshots, and he'd clinch with him every time. I just it was baffling to me. And then against the Petrosian fight, which is his worst performance by far, he was just throwing spinning stuff when he didn't need to, just throwing way too much spinning stuff, not throwing enough straight shots. And the straight shots are there against a guy like Petrosian. He just wasn't throwing them. And we've seen Petrosian, a guy that isn't in the UFC anymore. So, obviously CLD just doesn't have great fight IQ, doesn't have good fighting instincts in general. Obviously the guy, I can't deny his athletic ability and his talent, right? The guy can do a lot of good things in this weight class, right? This guy is a dynamic, athletic striker, a lot of power in his hands. So obviously, if he is able to improve that fight IQ, this guy could be a problem for a lot of people in this division. I think he wins this fight pretty dominantly, right? Anders, like I said, gets hit a lot, so I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in here and knocks him out cold in the first round. But I do think he wins by decision. I think his cardio is decent, right? To his credit, and he can outlast a guy like Anders, who just kind of is like grinding on people to get these wins. I don't think it's going to happen to CLD. I got him by decision. All right, moving on to bantamweight, a pretty good fight. We got Miles Johns taking on Gene Matsumoto. Matsumoto's sitting comfortably at minus 270. Comeback on Johns is plus 230. And listen, I just think Gene is far too well rounded for Johns here. With all respect to Johns, because Johns is a guy that is very good for this weight class, right? This dude has power in his hands and good wrestling, and that could be enough to stop a guy like Gene, who has shown he has a little bit of a problem with his takedown defense. But besides that, I mean, this guy is good everywhere, right? This guy's got fast, explosive striking. He was able to hang in the striking with Rob Font, who is one of the better strikers in this division. This guy's got nasty power, good wrestling offense too. Was able to secure a bunch of takedowns against Argueta and Brad Katona. Obviously in the jiu-jitsu, this guy is very, very dangerous, right? You slip up for 1 second, this guy is snatching your neck, this guy is jumping on your back. So this guy, very good. He got multiple black belts in multiple different disciplines, and he shows it in the octagon. He uses everything, and against Johns, he's gonna have the opportunity to use everything because he will shoot for takedowns and he will hang in the striking. So I think he can. This is kind of a show, not really a showcase, because Johns isn't a bum, right? He's good, but I do think that Matsumoto can excel in this type of fight. Obviously, there is the danger on the feet, but I do think he should be the far sharper and faster striker in this fight, and I think he should cruise. He's another guy I'm really high on, and I think he can show that in this fight. So I got Matsumoto winning by decision here. All right, next up at featherweight, we got Andre Fili taking on Christian Rodriguez, C-Rod. C-Rod is the favorite, minus 235. Come back on Fili, plus 200. And odds that seem crazy wide to me. I know Fili was coming off that really, really poor performance against Melky Costa, but this guy has proven that he can be a problem for a lot of people in this division if he's not threatened on the feet, right? Because the story of this guy's career is just his chin is just not very good, and when he has a hard time mixing the martial arts, his chin does get in the way of that, right? We've seen him get knocked out cold a ton. So, obviously there is that problem, but against a guy like C-Rod, that won't really be a threat on the feet. Um, when talking about him, because he's not really a guy that does have power on the feet. Obviously, if you can always land something of significance, but he hasn't really shown that in the UFC. Obviously the grappling is very good, right? This guy does have a submission when the UFC has been able to scramble with a lot of good people, both in bantamweight and in featherweight. Although, admittedly, he was pretty fat for bantamweight, missing weight a lot, but I do think he can have success in the grappling, but I am going to look and pick Feely here for his more well-rounded approach, and the fact that he's going to have a huge size advantage in this fight. The 4-inch height advantage and a long reach advantage as well. I think it's going to really bode well for him. Rodriguez has struggled with the size of Melky Costa in the fight, which honestly I think he might have won. But this is a little bit of a different stylistic matchup, one that really favors Feely in my opinion. He's obviously getting up there in age, and the dude's hard to trust, but I do think he can pull through in this fight, win by decision here. But obviously, there is a finish on the table for him if he so chooses that. All right, next fight coming up at strawweight, we got Yasmin Lucindo taking on Angela Hill. Lucindo sitting at a minus 180 favorite. Comeback on Hill is plus 155. And Lucindo, after that incredible performance with Lemos, I'm just kidding. The performance was horrible, right? She was flat footed, stuck in the mud on the feet, and she couldn't defend a takedown to save her life. Looked like she didn't take a single wrestling class in her life, right? And, obviously that could be an issue against Hill because Hill, she's 40, right? But she's improving her tool set every single time she goes out there, right? We saw that a couple fights ago. She started mixing in takedowns into her game. She has submission skills now. She had that mounted guillotine against Luan Pinheiro. And, obviously there is the path to victory there, right? Because even at 40, she's very fast to the division. Might even be faster than Lucindo in this fight. Obviously not very dangerous at 40, but she does still have, the IQ, the veteran savvy and all that. And again, the speed and the wrestling is still there. And that might be it to stop a girl like Lucindo who, has struggled with that type of stuff, particularly in the past. So I'm going to take a shot here. I'm picking Hill to win this fight. Again, like I said, that speed and that more well-rounded game plan that she has been taking in these last couple fights, I think it's going to prove very, very useful against a much younger but a much more inexperienced fighter. So give me Hill to win this one by decision. All right, next up at bantamweight, not flyweight. These are two flyweights. It'll be the number 10 ranked flyweight, Steve Ursay, taking on short notice replacement O'Day Osborne. He was initially supposed to fight Youngsung Park. Obviously, he got pulled for the main event. I think he would have beat him now, considering Park's performance in the main event. But we got O'Day Osborne now, and I think, well, he probably could have beat Park. This is a much easier matchup for Steve Ursay, and the odds show that minus 600 for Ursay, plus 425 for Osborne. I think the key here is to use his wrestling, right? We haven't seen it much in the UFC because the guy has had success just striking with people and he's knocked people out. But wrestling in this fight is going to eliminate all of the threat in this fight because Osborne only has one way to win. It is to outstrike people or to knock them out, right? And Ursig, if he chooses to wrestle and grapple in this fight, it takes away that. Like, why give your opponent the only chance they have to win this fight, right? Why have extended striking exchanges with this guy if you know you have a big advantage in the wrestling and the grappling, right? And I'm not saying don't strike with him because he can obviously have success, right? He's a good boxer, pretty big for the division. Maybe he doesn't have the reach advantage in this fight, but he is going to have the size advantage. Just a bigger dude in general. But I do wonder, like, why mess around on the feet? Because Osborne has that one punch power, and I don't know what Ursig's mindset is because he has lost 3 in a row. So there is that question, but I do think he gets it done actually by submission here. I think Osborne is very finishable, right? You've seen him; he's gotten finished. I want to say like 5 times in the UFC already. So there is that question. If Steve gets it on the ground, I think he's going to be very live for submission here. He was a submission guy before he actually entered the UFC, right? And we saw that against Costa. He had a couple moments in that fight where he almost submitted him, but Costa also really good on the ground. But I got to go Ursig here. Obviously, like I mentioned, all the tools to get this done can win striking or on the ground, but obviously that ground game there'll be a huge gap in that, and you'll see that if he does decide to shoot. I got him by submission here. All right, moving on to the main event, we got Roman Dolidze taking on Anthony Hernandez. Hernandez sitting at minus 310, come back on Dolidze is plus 260. And I see a lot of people are on Dolidze, right? They see the big line, they say, oh my God, this guy's such a good grappler. And Hernandez, that's all he likes to do is grapple, and this guy is susceptible to eating big shots on the feet, and that's what Dolidze can do. But I just don't think he can maintain it. If you're picking Dolidze here, I think you're hoping for like a first or second round finish, and that's it. Like you're banking on this dude landing a Hail Mary punch or like getting some like weird leg lock or something. I just don't think it's going to happen, right? Because we've seen Dolidze, he just doesn't have the wrestling to accommodate that grappling. And I don't think his gas tank is going to be good enough to kind of match the pace of Fluffy. We've seen Fluffy go 5 rounds pushing an insane pace, just constantly taking him down and taking him down and taking him down. We saw that against Michel Pereira. He was taking him down over and over and over again and was still coming with an insane pace, even in the 5th round. So, the dude, I don't like the way he responds to shots on the feet, but I don't think that danger is necessarily going to be there against Dolidze, right? He obviously has power, but he's not really as dynamic as a guy like Michel Pereira, even as technical as a guy like Brendan Allen, because Allen is an underrated striker in my opinion, but people were talking about like Dolidze, oh my god, this guy is amazing grappling. Look at who Hernandez has beaten. He outgrappled Brendan Allen, won that decision, then he submitted Rodolfo Vieira. So it's nothing really that Hernandez hasn't seen before, right? I think he can definitely take advantage of the poor gas tank and the sometimes poor technical ability of Dolidze, especially on the feet, to get inside and kind of make this his fight. And I think if you're betting Dolidze, you're betting first or second round finish maybe, and then after that, I mean, I don't really think he has a chance. I think Hernandez is going to take over and dominate this fight. So give me Hernandez here. I'm very confident as the minus 310 odds show. I think he gets it done by late knockout here. And again, like I said, if you're betting on Dolidze, I just don't see it in my opinion. He has the skills, I just don't see it in this fight particularly. And that is going to do the break and be the end of the breakdown, right? It's 1 o'clock my time, so I apologize. I'm looking a little bit messed up right now. I've had to film this like 3 times already, but we got it done eventually in the end. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. It means a lot to me, all of you guys watching these videos. I never thought I'd get these many viewers just off rip. So obviously we're still new on this platform. We're gonna try to grow it together, But thank you all so much for watching this video, and yeah, I hope you enjoy in the future. Appreciate you guys.